If you've ever wondered how Britain became the country it is today, how it survived revolutions, built and lost an empire, fought world wars, created the welfare state, left the European Union, and redefined itself again and again, you're in exactly the right place. Because over the next few minutes, you're going to meet every single UK Prime Minister in order and see how each one left a mark on the nation. No skipping the hard parts, no smoothing over the scandals. Just the full story, challenge by challenge, triumph by triumph. Stretching across more than 3 centuries of history, our journey begins in the early 18th century when Britain itself was still adjusting to a new reality. The crowns of England and Scotland had been united in 1707. Politics was dominated by 2 fierce rivals, the Whigs, champions of parliamentary power and reform, and the Tories, defenders of royal authority and tradition. Out of their rivalry, and almost by accident, a new role took shape, one that would come to define British government. In 1721, Robert Walpole stepped into that role, and in doing so, effectively became Britain's first Prime Minister. Walpole didn't invent the title, but he gave it meaning. After years of European wars and financial crises, he prioritized peace and economic stability. He was a master of persuasion, using patronage and personal charm to keep Parliament aligned with him. Critics called it corruption, supporters called it skill. He became the first to reside at 10 Downing Street, establishing a tradition that continues to this day. Under him, the office of Prime Minister transformed from an informal arrangement into a central pillar of government. After Walpole came Spencer Compton, Earl of Wilmington, whose time in office was brief and overshadowed by stronger personalities in his cabinet. Frail and often ill, he was seen more as a placeholder than a driver of policy. It was joked that Britain was being governed by physicians rather than politicians. His tenure reminded the country that leadership without authority rarely leaves a lasting legacy. Stability returned under Henry Pelham, a moderate reformer who reduced national debt and avoided unnecessary conflict. Working closely with his brother, the Duke of Newcastle, Pelham preferred practical improvements to dramatic gestures. His reforms to criminal law demonstrated a steady administrative mind focused on gradual progress rather than spectacle. Thomas Pelham Hollis, Duke of Newcastle, followed. Energetic yet anxious, he thrived behind the scenes but struggled in the spotlight. His first government faltered during the early years of the 7 Years' War. Yet when he returned to office alongside William Pitt the Elder, Britain's fortunes improved dramatically. Newcastle had the stamina to run a nation, but rarely the calm to enjoy doing it. A brief caretaker period came under William Cavendish, Duke of Devonshire, who stepped in during political turbulence. He governed quietly, avoided grand speeches, and focused on keeping the machinery of state running smoothly. His leadership steadied the ship, even if it never captured headlines. Then came John Stuart, Earl of Bute, the first Scottish Prime Minister after the 1707 Union. Close to King George III, he helped negotiate the Treaty of Paris in 1763, ending the 7 Years' War. But suspicion of his royal favoritism and anti-Scottish prejudice undermined him. Within a year, he resigned. George Grenville followed, remembered above all for the Stamp Act attacks on the American colonies that ignited fury across the Atlantic. Grenville was meticulous, reading documents line by line, but his financial logic could not foresee the revolutionary consequences. His policies planted seeds that would soon grow into open rebellion. Charles Watson Wentworth, Marquis of Rockingham, repealed the Stamp Act, easing tensions. A principled reformer, he opposed slavery and supported civil liberties. His moral approach earned respect, though he lacked flamboyance. He died in office during his second term. William Pitt the Elder returned, now Earl of Chatham. A hero of earlier wars, he envisioned Britain as a dominant global power. But poor health limited his active leadership, and his grand coalition faltered. Augustus Henry Fitzroy, Duke of Grafton, became prime minister at just 33. Capable but indecisive, he struggled with mounting unrest in America. His short tenure reflected growing instability across the empire. Lord Frederick North's premiership became defined by the American War of Independence. Intelligent and personable, he sought compromise but ultimately presided over Britain's loss of its American colonies. Despite defeat, he remained loyal to the king and maintained dignity under pressure. William Petty, Earl of Shelburne, finalized peace with America in 1783. He hoped to rebuild trade and reposition Britain strategically, but political rivals forced him out quickly. The Duke of Portland served twice, first leading a fragile coalition, later returning during the Napoleonic Wars. His second term was weakened by illness and infighting. Then came William Pitt the Younger, who at just 24 became Britain's youngest prime minister. A financial genius, he stabilized the economy and led Britain through the French Revolutionary and Napoleonic Wars. His resignation over Irish Catholic emancipation showed principle, but he returned to confront Napoleon again. His death at 46 cut short one of the most remarkable careers in British politics. Henry Addington offered a temporary peace with France through the Treaty of Amiens, giving Britain a brief respite. William Grenville followed, leading the Ministry of All the Talents, which abolished the slave trade in 1807, a landmark moral achievement. Spencer Perceval guided Britain during wartime strain but was assassinated in the House of Commons, the only prime minister to suffer that fate. Lord Liverpool then governed for 15 years, overseeing Napoleon's final defeat and navigating industrial change at home. George Canning's energetic but brief premiership marked a shift toward more liberal conservatism. He died just 4 months into office. Frederick Robinson lasted only 144 days, unable to manage a divided coalition. Arthur Wellesley, hero of Waterloo, brought military discipline to politics. He oversaw Catholic emancipation in 1829. His stern style earned both respect and resentment. Earl Grey led transformative change with the Reform Act of 1832, expanding voting rights. He also passed the Slavery Abolition Act of 1833, ending slavery across the empire. Lord Melbourne mentored a young Queen Victoria, offering steady if unremarkable governance. Then Robert Peel reshaped the Tory party into the modern Conservative Party. His repeal of the Corn Laws lowered food prices but split his party. Lord John Russell carried forward reform. Lord Aberdeen struggled during the Crimean War. Lord Palmerston projected confidence abroad, blending reform with assertive diplomacy. The Earl of Derby led during democratic transition, passing the Second Reform Act. Then came Benjamin Disraeli, novelist and master orator who strengthened the empire and expanded social reform. His rival, William Ewart Gladstone, served 4 times, driven by moral conviction and reforming zeal. Their rivalry defined Victorian politics. The Marquess of Salisbury governed from the House of Lords, managing imperial diplomacy cautiously. Arthur Balfour's Education Act shaped schooling, while his later Balfour Declaration influenced Middle Eastern history. Campbell Bannerman introduced humane justice reforms. H. Asquith laid foundations of the welfare state, but was overtaken by World War I. David Lloyd George led Britain to victory in World War I and expanded social reform, though peace proved fragile. Bonar Law's brief term bridged eras. Stanley Baldwin steadied interwar Britain and managed the abdication crisis. Ramsay MacDonald, first Labour Prime Minister, split his party during economic crisis. Neville Chamberlain sought peace through the Munich Agreement but could not prevent war. Then came Winston Churchill, whose wartime speeches inspired a nation under siege. After victory, Clement Attlee quietly transformed Britain, founding the NHS and expanding welfare. Anthony Eden's premiership collapsed during the Suez Crisis. Harold Macmillan restored confidence amid prosperity. Alec Douglas home-bridged aristocracy and democracy. Harold Wilson modernized Britain through sweeping social reform. Edward Heath took Britain into the European Economic Community. James Callaghan faced economic turmoil. Then Margaret Thatcher reshaped Britain with free market reforms and fierce resolve. John Major signed the Maastricht Treaty and advanced Northern Ireland peace. Tony Blair's New Labour brought reform and controversy, particularly over Iraq. Gordon Brown steered Britain through financial crisis. David Cameron legalized same-sex marriage but resigned after the Brexit referendum. Theresa May struggled to deliver Brexit amid parliamentary deadlock. Boris Johnson completed Brexit and led during the COVID-19 pandemic but fell amid scandal. Liz Truss lasted just 49 days after market turmoil. Rishi Sunak sought stability but lost the 2024 election. And now Keir Starmer leads Britain after a landslide victory, promising renewal and competence, yet facing the immense challenge of restoring public trust in uncertain times. From Walpole to Starmer, the story of Britain's prime ministers is not just a sequence of names. It is a continuous thread of ambition, reform, failure, recovery, courage, and compromise. 3 centuries of leadership shaped by war and peace, empire and independence, division and unity. Each prime minister inherited a country changed by the one before and left it changed again for the next. And together, they tell the story of modern Britain itself.